Welcome to another episode of Altitude Advantage. I am your host and team reporter, Elisa Hernandez, and across the table from me, as always, is DenverBroncos.com lead writer Aric DiLalla. The Broncos are hosting the Carolina Panthers at home. They actually lead that series 6-1 all-time, 3-0 when they are playing at home, and they're looking to get back to their winning ways as they head back into Week 8. But before we get into all that fun stuff about this matchup, I have to check in with you. We're going to do some deep dive into some comments, some breakdowns, see this Brett Bronix.
Bronix, wow. That's a good nickname.
No, it's not. Going to see this matchup between Bryce Young and Bo Nix. Really excited to kind of get things going. But, checking in with you. How are you today? Well, we're going into Week 8.
I'm good. It's crazy to believe we're already 8 weeks into the season. It's gone fast. I think that as I sit here and look back at the season, I'm pleasantly surprised that the Broncos are 4-3, and you start thinking about playoffs and like how many wins can they get to and all that stuff, and you just start thinking about the possibilities, and then you have to remind yourself that even though we are halfway through the season, still got an entire half of the season still to go. Yeah. 10 more games, even more than half the season. Like, still a long way to go here. But certainly an encouraging start. I think there's a good energy around this team, and excited to be back at home. As we'll talk about, it's important for this team to get back on track in Denver, find a way to start racking up those wins at Empower Field at Mile High. But yeah, I'm doing well. I'm rested after I know we talked Monday, but takes a couple days to get back into the routine, and now we're ready to go.
I know we've heard that word creep in a little bit here and there, playoffs. Cortland Sutton talked about that a little yesterday, more in the context of it's important to win at home because that sets you up for a better position to go into the playoffs. But it's nice to kind of see the players not getting ahead of themselves, but still understanding that the ultimate goal is there.
Yeah, I asked Court, and I think I actually asked him this a few weeks ago too, but last year you're 1-5, and you're spending this whole month of October, November trying to dig out of 1-5, and they ended up doing that.
Yeah.
And got to 6-5, then 7-6. But it takes an insane amount of energy, I think, both physically and mentally, to find a way to do that. And so the fact that they don't have to exert that mental energy, I think, helps you focus in on just being the best you can be to stack those wins.
Yeah.
But he also said, like, just because we're 1-5 or because we're not 1-5, that's not the end goal here. Being 4-3 is not the ultimate goal. The goal is to get to the playoffs. The goal is to, and for many of these players, it'd be the first time in their career that they do that.
Yeah.
So lofty goals still ahead. They know that even though they're in a better spot than they were a year ago, this isn't the end-all be-all. It's not done. The work's not finished. So excited to see as we get to Week 8 against the Panthers, and then kind of start a tougher stretch.
Yeah.
What this team is all about, how they're able to fight, how they're able to battle back for some adversity that I'm sure is coming at some point, and just excited to see how that all goes.
Yeah, when you step back and you look at the bigger picture, you're almost thinking like, okay, the losses at the beginning of the season, they were tough, and kind of like the adversity that they faced early on, just like those growing pains of Bo Nix. And then now you kind of see like, wow, it's great that they kind of went through that in a way, because you are going to face two tough opponents in the Baltimore Ravens and Kansas City Chiefs. So we'll dive into all that in a bit in the pod, but we're going to get to Eric's favorite segment, which is going through the comments, seeing what the people of Broncos country and YouTube land are saying. So,
ooh, YouTube land, that's exciting.
What do we got
today?
Sounds
dramatic. Okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
From last week's show, before the Thursday night game, we got some nice comments here from Stacy Pohl, really loving Elisa Hernandez.
You did that on purpose. You said it was nice. Elisa. It's like Lisa, but Elisa. E-L-I-S-A.
This is A-L-I-C-I-A. Not even very many letters that are, we got an I that's good, an
you
L
know what?
that's good.
Next show, I'm going to just have a name tag.
And an A. That'd be good. They don't spell my name right either, but
That's a lie.
Mine's a little more understandable. Anyway, Stacy says, really enjoying the way the Broncos are playing this year. They're giving the fan base something to be hopeful for, which we have not had for a while now. Go Broncos. I think that's true. I think part of a couple weeks ago I said, like, everybody just calm down. Part of that is because things have been so tough for many years now, and last year at this point you're 1-5. Like, enjoy going into Week 8 with a home game that you're favored to win, and being 4-3, and like you mentioned, Kansas City, Baltimore. Like, we'll get to all that. Just enjoy the moment. Be in the moment.
Be in the moment.
Live in the moment. High quality. 98. Let's go up tempo and secure the dub. Let Bo cook. Broncos 30, Saints 19. That was the prediction.
Chef Bo.
Yeah. Too many points for the Saints there, high quality, but still a pretty good prediction. Got close to the Broncos score.
Yeah.
Larry Archer says, Elisa, you are doing a fantastic job.
Oh,
nice.
That is very nice.
Miranda P says, the show is great, guys. It went from NPR-like, parentheses, previous host, hard to sit through, to great content and fun discussions. Elisa's been a great addition. Go Broncos. I was also one of the previous hosts, so that is kind of like a shot at me.
Shout out to all the hosts that were here before.
But thank you, Miranda.
We love all of them.
This person, Kisame, Fish Fry, said, I made it in for future reference if I ever get in again. The first part of the name is pronounced Kisame.
So you did say it right this time.
I did say it right.
All right. Well,
yeah, I'm learning. I'm
it's crazy how you
growth.
got it right, and then they still call me. You know, I think they're calling me Alicia, Lisa, Liza.
Well, I think it's like a little bit of a joke. Like they do that
my
with me too.
My name is not a joke.
Well, they do that. They spell my name wrong on purpose, I think. Ryan Halifax, ready for this week. This is again before the Saints game.
Okay.
Closer and closer to week 15. Ready to see Bo in my first home game.
Oh,
that'd be exciting, Ryan.
Hey.
That'd be nice.
That is exciting.
Larry Archer, more comments. Damn, no. Can I say that? I think so. Whoops. No varsity blues.
We'll fix it in
Question mark?
That's
Love
what we
the
talked.
show.
Yeah.
Go Broncos. DB for life from Kansas City.
That's what we're talking about.
Kansas City.
Yeah. Shout out to you.
Yikes.
2 weeks. We'll be there 2 weeks.
Oh, 1 week at a time, Elisa.
So we'll be there. That's from the. Would you want to change your answer, by the way? Because you had said.
No, I said Jerry Maguire.
That's not what you said. You said Little Giants.
No. You weren't listening to me. I said Jerry Maguire because then you made me say, show me.
Well, you said Little Giants first. You said that you
I just
had
said it's a
seen
good.
that.
Yeah. No, Jerry Maguire is the answer. Dominic Carmia also chiming in on best football movie of all time, Friday Night Lights. That's a good one. That's exciting. Let's see what else we got. Richard Tincher. It's too bad the game is in prime time. In Germany, it starts at 2:15 a.m.
Oh, my God.
Take a little nap during the day. Take a little nap.
Stay up. It's 3 a.m. club.
Dominic Jaramillo also says, Erica, which, no thanks, and Homegirl, let's go Dodgers.
Let's go Dodgers. I'm homegirl, though?
I guess so. John Dobbs, this is before the Saints game. This is getting old. They said every game they want to start fast. Who doesn't want to start fast? LOL. They started fast, dude.
Yeah. And against
John,
the Chargers,
I hope you don't mind if I call you dude.
And against the Chargers, they did not start fast, which they acknowledged was part of the reason they struggled in that game.
Yeah. Well, I think John's point was that, like, of course they want to start fast, but they did. They did it.
Yeah.
Bud Lightyear. Oh, I'm not going to read that. Never mind.
We need an uncut version of these comments.
Robert Barlow. Yes, Aric, you take all the oranges. They're free. That, of course, is dating back to
Amen to that.
when we talked about, do I take an orange in the New Orleans press box?
Yes.
For a victory old fashioned when
Which
I
report
returned
back?
home.
Were there
There were
oranges?
no oranges.
Was there any fruit?
No. There was salad. I mean, it was a night game. I feel like fruit is more of like a morning situation.
Well, look, we're back home now, so you can have the orange.
Yeah, we'll see if I do that. I'm not going to confirm or deny if I'm doing that. Robert Barlow. Thank you for all the comments, Robert. I want to know what your favorite Broncos moment in your memory is.
Ooh.
Nothing before your date of birth. Lisa, what do you got?
Oh, I have coming to my first Broncos game, Monday Night Football against the Bengals when we actually clinched to go to the playoffs the year that we won the Super Bowl. It was my first time in Denver. It was freezing cold. And when I got to the stadium, I saw someone walk in with a ski suit, and I came with my family. My mom and dad were like, it's too cold. We're going to go to a restaurant and watch it there. So we're like, okay. So me, my sister, and my brother went to the game.
Soft. I'll say it. Sorry.
They're older. They're like, we want to live comfortable. I love my mom and dad.
No disrespect.
And me and my sister and my brother went, and we walked in, and we saw people like in ski suits. And we were like, okay, that's a little dramatic. It's not that cold. By the third quarter, first of all, my soda froze, which I've never seen in my life. Second of all, I thought my toes had fallen off. And the only thing that helped is that we obviously won the game. But I had really good seats. I was behind the goalpost, on the side that we kicked the game-winning field goal. And so it was just awesome. It was my first game. Broncos country was like just so nice. They welcomed us. And then the best part was not understanding the parking situation and then walking in the snow for about 2 miles to get a lift back to the hotel. So that was a whole experience. I did see Emmanuel Sanders though take off in his car, and I was just like, yeah, I was younger.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that was my first and best memory. A close second is coming back for NFL kickoff to watch the rematch of the Panthers Broncos game at when we hung up the banner. That one's close, but I feel like that Monday night game really threw me into Broncos country. I feel like you don't go to a real Broncos game unless you go into the cold.
That's true.
So,
yeah,
I have that battle scar,
Yeah.
I have 4 toes now.
Now you're just cozy up in the press box, all warm. So
yeah, it's kind of nice. All right, what's yours?
Yeah, that Panthers game, which is the last time they were in Denver, was awesome. That was my first regular season game, so that was really fun.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I was down field level for like the last 5 or 6 minutes, and like Darian Stewart just hitting Cam Newton extremely hard, and then like the kick goes in, but then there's a timeout, and he misses the second one.
Yeah.
That was a really cool opening game. Yeah. The other one, which is right up there, was last year. The Monday Night Football win over the Bills was just guys coming off the field, and I think at that point the team had won 3 in a row.
Yeah.
But that was a big win, and guys were fired up. And I remember Cortland and people from the front office coming up, and they're high-fiving everybody.
Yeah.
And when you go play Buffalo in primetime, it feels like you against the world, because you're driving through this neighborhood and there's people tailgating on their yards. And
yeah. That was in Buffalo? Or?
In Buffalo, yeah. And, it just, there was a late, obviously, game-winning situation, and that was just a cool memory of like, oh, this team is starting to figure things out.
Yeah.
So
when I went to that stadium for the first time last year, when I was doing Sunday Night Football, first of all, I couldn't get over how small it was in terms of like the fans are like right there, like eye level.
There's no sideline.
There's no sideline, and like you turn around, there's a fan just looking right at you. So that was very interesting to see. I also went there during the cold, so. But yeah, I feel like those memories really stick with you when you kind of have like those key moments that just kind of flash back to you. That's a good question. I like that question.
Good question.
Okay,
and then a couple real quick from this week's show.
Oh.
Eric Martinez, this is about the Panthers, says it doesn't matter how we win, doesn't matter if we win 10-9 or 33-18, we just need to win. The media is looking at Bo and expects him to be a seasoned veteran. All I know is he is a winner. I do think there's something to be said for winning games even when you're clearly not at your best, or not where you're going to end up, or not where you're going to be. Like Bo still has a lot of room for growth. He would say that, but the fact that you're winning while that's going on, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes this weekend, but I agree. A win of any kind is important.
He has a high ceiling, which is good to see from Bo.
Jay Woke says, week 8, here we go, almost halfway through. The season is flying by.
It is.
Sean Williams, this was a great and informative take on the mental makeup of the mindset that should be with this team. Awesome stuff. James Diego says, would an RPO play be considered play action? Because Sean Payton the other day was asked about play action, and hey, you don't use it very much. And he said, I don't really agree with that. So it is possible maybe he's looking at RPO plays as kind of a play action type play, because there's a run element to that. Maybe that's not being counted by Pro Football Focus. Pool Shark says, we're not giving enough credit to special teams. And then the rest of the comments not very nice, but yes, shout out to special teams.
Yes. We do give love to special teams. We said that like certain games we were firing all cylinders. Special teams is giving the team really good field position. We gave them love, and we gave love to Bo Lutz, which as a kicker, I just feel like he does.
And I think a good golfer too, so that's good. Travis Cooper, just a couple more. What happened to Atwater a few times a week? You guys need people on the show that have played football and know what's going on. Well, I played high school football really poorly.
And he's like an honorary coach.
Take that.
He's an honorary coach.
Steve is on Broncos Weekend, which you can check out on the Broncos official YouTube page.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just mosey on over there. But Steve's around. We can't overdo the Steve, because then he's like, Eric, stop making me do all this stuff. No, I'm just kidding. Steve is like he's the best person alive. Yes, and then Quentin Caldwell, I think this is a great transition into our next topic, but he says you definitely cannot overlook. I'm so excited about like how that was going to go right into what we talk about next, and I messed it up. But
you're fine.
Said definitely don't overlook any team, and I think that's the case as the Broncos welcome the Panthers in here, almost a double-digit favorite as we record this. But it's all about finding a way to win.
Yeah, the Carolina Panthers are 1-6 going into this matchup. As we said, the Broncos are 4-3, and I think the talk has kind of been not overlooking it so that this game always becomes like a trap game where you get too far ahead because you have two strong opponents coming up. But I think, head coach Sean Payton has done a really good job of just honing everybody and just be like, hey, there's still some good players on this Carolina Panthers team. This defense has the ability to get after our quarterback just like we have the ability to get after theirs. And yes, starting fast has been really the theme of a lot of the podcasts that we've done. But when you kind of look at, the takeaways and how Bo Nix has been able to take care of the football, I think against this team in particular, who has given up the most points, given up the most rushing yards, I think third most in passing yards given up, there's a formula there that the Broncos can use to their advantage to get the win on Sunday.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it there. There's a couple stats that stand out when you talk about this Broncos team. I do think it's important to recognize that Sean Payton has said there's a different way to win every game. You're not going to win every game the same way. Yeah. There's a formula in 1 week. You might pass the ball a lot. We saw against Tampa, the Broncos come out, they throw it down the field. They take a couple deep shots, and they get an early lead. Against New Orleans, you see them run the ball a bunch. Yeah. And Bo Nix said on Wednesday that, hey, there's value in being able to win different ways. We have seen them win by 15-plus points 3 different times already. We've seen them win a 10-9 game that's ugly. I was talking to JFM on Wednesday, and he basically said, listen, you've got to be able to win both types of those games in the NFL because it's not always going to be pretty. There's going to be ugly games. There's going to be 10-9s. Mm-hmm. The teams that find a way to win those as well are the teams that end up having success. And so as we talk about the turnovers in particular, like let's be clear that the Broncos, there's not one way to do this. And that as you watch this season, I think one of the benefits of having a coach like Sean Payton is he knows that different games are going to take different routes to winning.
He's seen all scenarios, for sure. For sure.
So that's promising. And I would also say in terms of like overlooking this team, at 4-3, a team that was 1-5 a year ago, they know themselves. You don't want to let a team get hot. You don't want to let a team, even with one win, like you can't take them lightly. And so I think the Broncos of all teams probably know, and it's not like they've won a bunch of division titles in the last few years. And like, this is a team that's still building, still growing. I think they understand not overlooking a team. But from that turnover standpoint, Elisa, I have the stats here. I know you like the stats when we get those cooking.
We like the numbers. Numbers don't lie.
So the Broncos 4-0 this year when they have 1 or fewer giveaways.
Okay.
0 of 3 with 2+ giveaways. And then they're also 4-0 when Bo does not throw an interception. And 0-3, unfortunately, when he does throw an interception. I think those picks in particular, and we'll talk more about Bo in a minute or two, but I think you're seeing less or fewer careless turnovers maybe.
Yeah.
Like there were a couple picks against Seattle or Pittsburgh that you're like, that's not a great decision.
Yeah, and keep in mind that's early in the season. That was
right, exactly.
First 3 weeks.
So you're like, that's not a great decision. The pick against the Chargers, it wasn't a bad decision. It just the throw got away from him, and so that one I feel like you live with. And hard to say on the Tyrann Mathieu one that it wasn't a pick, but it hit him in the hands. It probably should have been. Yeah. A turnover-worthy play is probably what you consider that, but. Is that a bad decision? Is that a mechanic or just a poor throw? So I think it's encouraging that you're not seeing this team make poor decisions and put the ball in harm's way. Audric Estime this week, Elisa's walking around with a football that Javonte Williams gave him. It's a little bit like Remember the Titans because he's focused on not fumbling the football. And he said,
Petey.
Exactly. Yeah. Pick this ball up. I want you to, there's how many feet are in a mile? I want you to pick this up and run every single one of them.
I just rewatched that movie the other day after our pod when they asked me what my favorite movie was. I went to go watch Murder Titans because it's a good movie.
Yeah, and I kind of picture like that moment of like Denzel Washington giving him the ball, like here's Sean Payton and Javonte Williams saying, "Hold on to this ball," and he said, "I'm going to put it down when I shower and when I eat," and otherwise walking around with it. And maybe Javonte said, "Hey, it maybe sounds silly, but it's important. Like this is our job, this is our livelihood."
Yeah.
If you lose the football, and then we've seen some backs over the years like have problems with that, and it can cost you a spot. And I'm not saying that's going to happen to Audric by any means because
he's going to be preparing.
Exactly. Well, and Sean Payton said one of the things you see with rookies in this league is defenders are taught
to knock the ball
out, like the peanut punch and all that. It's not as much of a focus in college, and so they've got to get used to, hey, is there a guy coming behind you that's going to pop it out? Are you fighting for an extra yard when three guys get there and they're just there? Like, I think you've seen Cody Barton a couple times. At the end of the play, he's just throwing haymakers. Defenders have been out here at practice. I think it was in training camp. They're wearing boxing gloves, like punching at the ball. So there haven't been those careless turnovers, which is, I think, really encouraging. And then on the other side, like you've seen, that the defense has forced turnovers. And it may seem simple or, I don't know, like a duh, but if you take
You'd be surprised. A lot of teams don't have haven't caused a lot of turnovers.
But like you take the ball away and you don't give it away, and you're in a position where you are giving yourself a chance to win. And we talk about this a lot. Like so many more games are lost than they are won. And maybe the Broncos get to a point, Sean Payton talked about this last year, maybe they get to a point where they can overcome some of these turnovers, or like the Chiefs sometimes they lose the turnover battle by 2 or 3, and like because Mahomes just has this wizardry about him, they still find a way to win. The Broncos are probably at the point right now where they need to win the turnover battle, and maybe they lose it by 1 and they overcome it, or maybe they lose it by 2 and they overcome it. But like you look at the win percentages, you're not going to win the turnover battle or lose the turnover battle by 3 or something most of the time and find a way to win. So even really for the rest of the season and moving forward, it's just a good identity to protect the football, take it away, and you do that, you're going to be in position to win games.
Yeah, and the Broncos defense has 10 takeaways, 5 of those which have been interceptions. And a few things to kind of touch on there. When you talk about the different ways to win, JFM had also talked about it. It was a few weeks ago. I forgot which game it was, but it was like that 20-yard drive that the opposing team had, and the defense was out there for a long time. And
the Chargers, Yeah,
it was a Chargers game, right? And so JFM had said, they asked him about it, like, oh, like, don't you guys get tired? And he kind of chuckled because he's like, there are times that, we leave the offense out there really fast because we can't contain the other offense. They're out there really quickly. And it was like, whether we have to be out there for a good portion of the game or it's a team sport. We complement and we pick each other up on games that, we're lacking in certain areas. And I thought that was very telling of how this team was really starting to mold its identity and the way that they're able to kind of push through certain adversity or even push through the outside noise of things. I feel like a lot of the times that's really what throws teams off when they get caught up in the hype or the storylines and things like that. And to Sean Payton's credit, I feel like he's done a really great job of just making sure that this team blocks out that noise and only focuses on each other, picking each other up, making sure that no one gets, left behind or thrown under any kind of circumstance. I think that's a really big deal, especially when you're struggling early. Because the Broncos have now won, 4 of the last 5 games?
Yep.
The Broncos defense has kept, I believe, opposing teams under 19 points in 5 of the last 7 games. I mean, there are positives that you can kind of take from that. Now, they do have a good road record, 3-1 on the road, 1-2 at home. That has been a big focus, I believe, over the last, kind of going into this. Sean Payton said, like, it's good to be, to win on the road. It's great to win at home. So coming back, hosting the Carolina Panthers for the Vamos Broncos game. Shout out to all the fanaticos out there. How do you see this team really kind of rallying and the importance really of getting that win at home? Yeah,
I think you've got to embrace it. Certainly when you play, whether it's a young quarterback like a Bryce Young, and we'll talk about him in a second, but whether it's him, whether it's having a veteran like Mahomes come in at the end of the season, you've got to use that noise to your advantage.
Yeah.
You've got to put teams in a place where it's difficult to deal with that. They pick up a false start or they're communication issues because of the noise? Or do they just get rattled? Certainly you have elevation on your side as well, the altitude advantage, if you will. You like what I did there?
I did.
That was nice. But I think the other part of that, though, is you're playing so well on the road that, like, if you don't win at home, you're wasting that. And, like, I almost view it as
that's a good point.
Win 75% of your games at home and, like, split on the road. And if you can do that, or win 80% of your games at home and split on the road, if you can do that, you're putting yourself in a really good position to make the postseason. Because you figure you have 9 or 10, sorry, just rattled here. You have 8 or 9 home games, depending on what year it is.
Right.
And so if you win half of those, it's about 4 or 5 games. Or excuse me, you win 80% of those, it's 6 or 7 games, somewhere in there. And then if you split on the road, you're looking at another 4 games there. So that puts you in double digits. And now you're looking at a place where you're going to make the postseason. And so from a road perspective, the Broncos are almost there. Like if you say, hey, our goal is to just be above 500 on the road. And I'm not saying that's what the Broncos' goal is, but that's just how I would look at it in terms of, hey, what's reasonable to expect?
Yeah.
Can you get half of your road games? Like that's a pretty decent season, I think.
Right.
So they're almost there, right? Like they're 3-1. They've won 3 consecutive road games, and yet they're 1-2 at home.
Yeah.
And Sean Payne did say, hey, the Steelers, I think they're 5-2 right now. Like, good football team.
Mm-hmm. They start the season undefeated for, I think they didn't get their first loss till later in the season.
Yeah. And then the Chargers, I think the way they ran the ball with Pat Surtain going out the first play or first defensive series of the game, that made it tough. But you've got to find a way, like down the stretch here, whether it's this game against the Panthers, if it's coming back against the Falcons after a road trip to Baltimore and Kansas City, if it's that Monday night game against Cleveland, if it's the Colts game after the bye, Kansas City the last week, like you might have to legitimately win all of those games to put yourself in a good position to make the postseason. And so let's start to develop that mentality of teams and return to it, right? From when this team was winning division titles and winning, back in 2015, like get yourself back to that mindset of people don't come in here and win. And I think around the league, Empower Field is thought of as one of the more difficult places to play because of the noise, because of the elevation.
Yeah.
And the Broncos have to get it back to that standard.
Yeah.
That happens, right, by going out and playing good football consistently week after week.
Right.
And hopefully it starts this weekend against the Panthers. But it's certainly, if the Broncos are going to want to, they do want to, right? If the Broncos are going to make the playoffs, certainly you're going to have to go like, I don't know, what did I just say? There's like 4 or 5 home games left. You've got to, I think 5. You've got to, you might have to win all 5. You might have to go 4-1. Like, got to find a way here to find a way to win at home. Otherwise, you're not going to be able, it's like what Sean Payne said with the division. You don't see a team go 3-3 in the division and do anything. Same thing here for the Broncos. If you don't find a way to have a winning record and a significant winning record at home, you're not going to reach where you want to go.
Yeah. And I think you look at the way that this team is really kind of honed in, especially after losses at home. Obviously, this team doesn't like to lose, period. But it's something about losing at home that really kind of hits deep for them. Cortland Sutton has spoken on it. Quinn Miners, all these players, and like we don't like to lose in front of Broncos country. And Steve Atwater, Hall of Famer Steve Atwater, he's here in spirit because he had dropped some knowledge on us, and he said that is a big focal point that this team needs to get back to, and he's like, Broncos country is going to show up, but that noise factor is huge. Using the noise to your advantage is huge. And he even gave a shout out to our marketing department and was like, the videos that we run showcasing the altitude and showcasing guys, with the mask on, getting the air, all that is part of the mentalness too, of being like, it is hard to play here, but it's not hard for this team to play here. And that's why these wins are so important, because you continue to build off of them too, especially when you're trying to string a couple of wins together, right?
I think you also see here, like I think back to last year's game against Cleveland, for example, young quarterback, Vegas earlier in the year, like when a team starts to struggle here and the Broncos get out to a lead, and then the crowd like gets going. Really,
you can hear it in the press box, like when fans are stomping and everything.
You can hear it, and I think it just becomes kind of like a rolling stone where it's like hard to stop. Then, where last year Cleveland was right in that game, and I know they had a quarterback change, but The Broncos got a little bit of momentum, and then there's a turnover, and before you know it, it's like boom, 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 and now they're making all sorts of mistakes. And this to me feels like a game where, can you go out and score early, get a stop, and then like put Bryce Young and the Panthers in a position where all of a sudden people are jacked up, they're excited, they're like, we can go 5-3 if we win this game, like we're going to be in great position to like make a second half run here.
Yeah.
The crowd gets going, it becomes even harder, and then they make another mistake, and then they get even louder. It's kind of like it plays off each other. The noise, the play on the field, it goes back and forth, and hopefully it gets to a point where both of those things are at a really high level. And listen, this home crowd, like the Broncos want to play well for them too. Like they know, Cortland Sutton was saying Wednesday, he knows how important it is to Broncos country. And certainly down the stretch here for some of these home games, it's going to be super important that fans are loud, that they're there, and also that the team puts on a good performance for them.
Yeah, you definitely saw that, especially in that Raiders game, right?
Of course, yeah.
I mean, all the big plays aside, just like the atmosphere from pregame to, halftime, everything, like the crowd was really into it, and the players feed off of that and feed off of that intensity. So switching gears a little bit here to this Bryce Young and Bo Nix, matchup that we have. First of all, with a win in Week 8, Nix would be the most wins by a rookie starting QB in Broncos history, because there's only been 4 wins, and he's already there. And there's so much season left, so it's interesting to see like how far he can go. And it's really interesting when you just think back to our very first podcast and the very first episode when we didn't know what to expect from Bo Nix, and Steve was here, and we're like talking about like, we want touchdowns the first week, and we want this, and we want that. And now to see his development on what he's been able to do, especially as a dual threat quarterback, which he still takes as a compliment, by the way. They asked him that. But what do you see from Bo as he kind of goes into this matchup, Week 8, everything he's learned from the past 7 weeks?
Yeah, I think one of the best things about Bo is that he finds a way. Listen, he's not perfect, and he'll say that. There's throws that he wants back. There's plays he wants back. Part of that is just going to be the development, and I don't think it's the footwork has been the key word this week, right after New Orleans, because there were a couple throws that he overshot. There was the one to Lucas Kroll. Troy Franklin's behind him, and it looks like he just puts it between them. He said Wednesday he's looking for Kroll. He just tried to get it over the defender. Sailed it a little bit.
Can I give a shout out to Bo Nix on that? Because he got a lot of heat from that on Twitter. And for him to just someone asked him the question and he answered it exactly how he saw it. Like, he doesn't shy away from those moments. And I think he's really one that he'll take the criticism. But he definitely wants the praise to be as loud as the disrespect. Like, he's like, y'all disrespect me, that's cool. But when I do good, I want to hear it.
I think generally, like when you see him get that footwork right, and Sean Payton said you don't want to overcoach it too much,
right?
And you want to let him kind of be him. There's certain elements or certain times where it's got to be a little bit better, but generally you don't want to overcoach it, have him thinking too much. But there's that room for improvement, right? But I will say he's still making plays down the field in the passing game that have been good. He's making plays in the run game that sets you up for success. But what he's also doing is, like we mentioned a little bit earlier, is he's not making these terrible decisions that are leading to mistakes.
He's not running just to run.
He's not running just to run. He's not making like bad decisions with the football, putting the ball in harm's way. I think, and not to take shots at other quarterbacks around the league, but you see guys, they're going down, they're getting sacked. Rattler last week, on the touchdown that was called off because of the offsides, like he's going down and he kind of tries to flip the ball away, and it would have been a touchdown if DJ Jones doesn't jump off sides there. And so Bo isn't really making those sorts of mistakes. Knock on wood that continues. I think that's part of the game that they really liked about Bo when they scouted him is, as Sean Payton says, you don't feel like you're in harm's way a lot. You don't feel on the verge of a negative play. I talked to Bo way back in June, and he said, you've got to know the difference between a mistake or an error that you can make and a critical mistake or error. And I don't think we've seen him make those critical mistakes. He's currently he's tied for the fewest sacks taken in the entire league, which has helped the Broncos have the best sack differential in the league, which I asked Sean Payton about that Wednesday, and he was basically said that's critical to the success we've had so far. And so with Bo, I know people want to see more. I know they want to see and by people, I mean Twitter, not internally.
I like how you cleared that up.
I think internally people are pleased with where Bo is, but on Twitter, the national analysts, the media, they want to see.
They want to see the big plays.
Yeah.
They want to see the explosion, which they're going to happen, but they want to see them now.
Right. And you're right. They will happen. And I think the encouraging thing is you're seeing some flashes, but some quarterbacks, you see those flashes, but then you also have the awful plays and they almost offset. And you know what I mean? If you're making a 50-yard touchdown throw, but then the next play you throw a terrible pick, it offsets to some degree. I think back to, we won't go there because we might face him in a few weeks. Anyway, we'll table that. I'm putting that in the notebook. We'll save it.
The sass.
But there are some quarterbacks that throw just many picks as touchdowns, or they are just making critical mistakes. The fact that Bo is finding some success, has found the level of success he has while not making these awful mistakes is really encouraging. He will grow to the point that there's more consistency, that those, maybe it's this week that obviously Panthers have the 32nd ranked scoring defense in the league. They've got the 25th ranked passing defense. Maybe this is the week the Broncos decide they're going to air it out and Bo throws for 300 yards for the first time.
Right.
Maybe that happens. Right. I don't know or not. But I will say, I think you're seeing signs of he's putting it together. There's more and more consistency, and he will get there. But the fact that he's not making those boneheaded plays, I mean, that's something that most rookies deal with, or they take too many sacks, or any quarterback take too many sacks, turn the ball over too much. Yeah. I think the Broncos have lost a lot of football games over the last 8 years because of quarterbacks doing that sort of thing. Yeah. And Bo so far has not done that. So that's what I appreciate most about him. And then on the other side, you've got Bryce Young coming in after being held out of the last 4 or 5 weeks. Yeah,
I know. And that's the one thing, a stat I looked at was Bo Nix has one giveaway in the last 5 games, tied for second fewest amongst QBs with 4+ starts since week 3. And the Panthers defense has only notched 3 interceptions at this season. But again, they have allowed the 3rd most yards per game in the NFL. So to your point, this could be the game that we do see them take advantage. I think we had talked about that on Monday's podcast where there's certain, you broke it down to the games, the way the season's broken up, the games you must win, the games that are a toss up, and the games that you can kind of steal. And so it's you look at this matchup as this is a game that arguably they should win, given, the Panthers' struggles, given the way that they lost last week to the Commanders when Jaden Daniels was out, I think, in the first quarter. So they didn't even get the full, exposure of his explosiveness. And I think the way that Bo has been able to really run the football, it was funny when they asked him, do you still take that as a compliment that you're a dual quarterback? And, he smiled and he laughed and he said, yeah, I do. He's I mean, no one wants to be known as a running quarterback in this league, but it is something that he can use in his toolbox. And I think when you're going against a defense like this, alongside with, Javonte Williams, Jaleel, and Audric, it's you just give them another problem to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. And despite the Panthers' struggles, I mean, the Broncos have seen teams back in 2017 or 2018, I believe it was 2017. Broncos are riding high, and the Giants come in here in prime time, and they either hadn't won or had one win, and the Broncos lost. So, if you don't take this team seriously, they will come in here and beat you. And so the Broncos, there can't be any of that, we can say, hey, this is a game the Broncos probably should win, but the team needs to be dialed in. I would say with Bryce Young, there's a little bit of unknown there, right? Yeah. Because he hasn't played in a while. Yeah.
And you have to be careful with players like that because sometimes when they have nothing to lose, they play a little more free at times. And, I was talking to Steve Atwater a little earlier today, and he said, look, no, you never want to have the other team, you never want to give a team an opportunity to give a random player a career day. I'm not saying that Bryson is a random player, but I'm saying anybody can, we talk about any given Sunday, anybody can have a great game. And so you don't want to give them the opportunity where Chuba Hubbard goes off or Bryce has this huge career game against this really great Broncos defense.
Absolutely. And he, the stats, these sort of stats always scare me.
Oh, man. It's spooky season. It is October.
Right. So Bryce, to start the year, 0 of 2, 3 picks, no touchdowns in his first 2 starts. Had a rushing touchdown. 0 of 9 on the road. No passing touchdowns, 4 interceptions in his last 6 road starts. When I see that, I'm like, oh, gosh, I hope that he doesn't, like, anytime it's 0 or 1, it's like, well, you don't want to be the team that becomes the 1, right?
Yeah.
And so...
law of averages almost. You're like, are you due?
I hope not. And I think this defense understands the challenge. They'll get after him. I think you bring the pressure and hope to, again, if you can get a lead on offense, forces Bryce Young to probably maybe throw it a little bit more than they want, maybe tries to hold the ball, make a big play, you get some turnovers. That's got to be the key, I think, is forcing Bryce Young into these turnovers. But yeah, I mean, he hasn't played for a while, so you don't have a ton of film on him in Dave Canales' system. You just have those 2 games worth.
True.
And you just got to hope that you're able to keep Bryce Young in those struggles as opposed to being the team where it's like, oh, Bryce Young, like you said, he comes out and has a big day. I think he's won 2 games as a starter, but one of them was last year against C.J. Stroud. Like, and the Texans were as good a team as any last year.
Very true.
So you've got to find a way, if you're Denver's defense, the key to me is like that first quarter, right, of don't let him get in a rhythm. Quickly find a way to can you force an early turnover? Can you sack him on an early series and make him uncomfortable so that he can't settle into a rhythm? Because if they get a lead or he gets into a rhythm and he starts feeling himself, like that's not a situation where you want to like mess around and find out what's going to happen if you're the Broncos.
True.
Knock him out of his comfort zone early on, and then hopefully you can ride that to a win. But he certainly has the talent, right? It's been more about can guys around him help him out? Can they find a way to put him in better position to succeed?
I mean, he was the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah,
which you have mentioned earlier this season.
The talent's there.
Yeah, like Caleb and all the quarterbacks, rookie quarterbacks that were struggling. You were like, let's be very clear. These are top picks for a reason. So you can never like kind of count them out.
Right. So this is it's one of those games where Bryce Young playing, and for people who haven't been maybe dialed in or you're like, why is Bryce Young playing? Andy Dalton and his family were in a car accident earlier this week. We're obviously very grateful that they're okay.
Yeah.
But Andy Dalton is not playing, sprained thumb, I believe right thumb, the injury report said. So he's not playing this week. We'll see if he's the number 2 quarterback. Obviously, again, very glad everybody's okay. But that's why Bryce Young is playing, and it adds this unknown to this matchup. And you just hope that the Broncos can capitalize on that. And knock on wood, I've seen enough from this defense that I believe that they are able to figure that out. Like against the Raiders, even they struggled a little bit early, but they found a way to figure it out. It's the same formula every week. Stop the run. Put Bryce Young in these situations where he's got to throw the football, where it's 3rd and long, where he can bring. That's what I'm excited to see. Is Vance Joseph brings the pressure from everywhere.
Yeah.
Try to find a way to maybe confuse Bryce a little bit and get after him.
Yeah. I talked to Jonathan Cooper earlier this week, and he gave all the credit to Vance Joseph and just said, like, the schemes that they're kind of putting in place is really what's making us successful. And I asked him where he's felt that he's really developed and advanced the most, and he said that he's able to read offenses a little better. Obviously, he's going to his 4th year. He's able to kind of be a leader on that line. And he says, like, it's a team effort. And that really echoes to what inside linebacker Cody Barton said yesterday after winning AFC Defensive Player of the Week for the first time in his career. Shout out, Cody.
Shout out.
He said, like, one of my favorite things about this defense is that everybody eats. Everybody, any game has an opportunity to make a play. And he said, like, as cool as it is to win this individual award, I credit it to my teammates because the pressure that they put on allowed me to have that opportunity for me to have my shine. And so I think when you look at the way that this defense is playing, it's also tough for offenses to plan against them because you have the Jonah Ellises, the Cody Bartons, the Zach Allens, the Nick Bonitos, the Jonathan Coopers that are going to attack you from every single angle. And I think stopping the run is a really big focus point for them as well. So as we close out here, I just want to touch on that really quick. Chuba Hubbard, I believe, has scored a rushing touchdown in 3 of the last 4 games. And they were able to really shut down Alvin Kamara on Thursday Night Football. So what's the formula you see there?
Yeah, well, one, don't let teams stay in a position where they can run the football. The Chargers were able to keep running the football a couple weeks ago because they were winning. It's all connected, right? If the offense can score and get ahead, then the other team feels like they can't keep running the football. So that's part of it. The offense has to do its part. If the offense doesn't score in the first half, it becomes easier for a team to just say, we're going to keep, even if we have to punt it away, like we're going to keep sticking with this. Maybe you, like last year, the Jets, when they came here and won, they were able to stick with the run game because the Broncos offense wasn't like blowing it out of the water.
Yeah.
And same with 2 years ago when they were able to come in here. So that's part of it. The offense has to do its part. But then it's just like it's an effort. It's a mentality. I think DJ Jones a couple weeks ago said, like, we've got guys here now that like they want to stop the run. They want to do this. Zach Allen, JFM, they've got the mentality it takes. And if you do that and you stop it early and then you get a play caller maybe questioning, like, should I stay with the run or not?
Yeah.
And again, you put Bryce Young in these tough 3rd and longs, and that gives you a chance. And also, if you're the Broncos, I think you need to show that you can stop the run because you've got Baltimore coming up, and like they're going to run the football.
Derrick Henry.
This is a good, I don't want to say tune-up, but like you've got a stretch here now where you're going to need to play good run defense. So it starts this week at home, and I'll be excited to see if the Broncos can do that, if they can fluster Bryce Young, if Bo Nix can maybe take a step and put up some of those highlight plays, and can the Broncos get back to winning at home?
Yeah, I think that's the key, and that's something we're going to all look forward to on Sunday. So that is it for this edition of Altitude Advantage. Again, I am your host and team reporter, Elisa Hernandez. Across the table from me, lead writer on DenverBroncos.com, Aric DiLalla, former high school standout, coach, mathematician, stats analyst, everything you need in one-stop shop. So we appreciate you guys listening. Make sure you guys, again, put your comments, put your questions. We'll make sure to read them. If you want more, even more analysis, make sure you guys check out Broncos Weekend on Saturdays. Steve Atwater will be on that show. So if you want to get your Hall of Famer fix, that's where you can go, and it'll also be on YouTube. So we appreciate you guys, and we will see you guys on Sunday.